Hello and welcome to the next episode of Mission Snapshot. We are so glad that you guys are back with us for another episode. And today we have a special guest. Karen Lundby is here with us today, and she is going to be talking with us about her experience as a mother when her child decided to become a missionary. So as you know, we deal with a lot of missionary families. So it's nice to hear the perspective of their family and what they think when someone they love decides to go into the mission field. So thank you for joining us. And we're going to be talking with Karen today. Thank you for being with us, Karen.
It's nice to be here.
Good. So your daughter, Miranda, works with us as a missionary, and she is in Cambodia. Or that's where she works. She's not there at this moment, but that's where she's been in the mission field. So I just wanted to talk with you kind of as a mom. I'm going to put a picture of Miranda up here on this screen so everyone can see who we're talking about. And as a mom, when you first heard that Miranda wanted to be a missionary, what was your thought? What was your thinking process?
Well, the first time I heard Miranda wanted to be a missionary was when she was like 8. So and it wasn't a huge surprise because we had, my grandparents were missionaries in Burma.
Oh, okay.
So I grew up with missionary stories from Eric B. Hare was a contemporary with my grandfather in Burma. And so I, of course, read those same stories to my kids, and we homeschooled, and so we did a lot of reading.
Yes.
And my kids, the girls played with dolls and with they played orphanage and they played school and they played mission field.
Nice.
So it wasn't a huge surprise. Miranda always had that thought process going on.
Nice. That's wonderful that she was able to grow up with kind of that mindset of what missions is all about. That's wonderful. So as she got older and that idea of being a missionary kind of stayed with her and it became more of this might actually happen reality, did you ever have a moment of thought maybe to discourage her based on where she wanted to go, or just wanting to keep her safe at home?
Well, that's actually kind of a 3-part answer.
Okay.
So initially, I'm not sure if I would use the word discourage, but hold back, because she was ready to go to the mission field, at 10.
Right.
And she, I think somewhere in her mind she realized that she couldn't just go at 10 by herself. So she set out on a campaign to find a mission for her entire family. And that was somewhat amusing in a way, because you'd have to actually know her father, but he would explain to her that he did believe that God could be calling her to the mission field, but until God specifically told him that he wanted him to go to a foreign field,
Right.
that he was probably going to keep working and
Right.
supporting
Stay where he
other
was.
things. And much to her dismay at that time, I mean, I think she had us in Africa and South
Right.
America and Asia over and over again.
Sure.
She was online looking at different placements for years.
Yes.
But when she was 15, we kind of felt like we needed to get her somewhere. And so the year she turned 15, we took her to Honduras, and she and her younger sister Madison went to Honduras and preached a share hymn for
nice.
3 weeks. And
Wonderful.
we actually kind of thought, Miranda had some anxieties, when she was young, and so a little bit of worried about germs and things like that. And so we really kind of thought it was important to get her someplace so that she could actually recognize that she was a little bit more afraid of things than she recognized. She saw, but it kind of backfired on us because we went to the mission field in Honduras, and not once did she have any concern about all of the things that she was concerned about in America. It was like God just took that away. And so that was a huge aha to us.
Yes.
And so that concern kind of went by the wayside a little bit at that point. then later, there's, we've never really wanted to discourage her from being where God wanted her to be.
Sure.
At one point, she went to Bolivia, and God really just slammed a door there. And when she came back, she was just kind of at a loss. And we, at that point, did encourage her to stay at home and finish her last year of college and then see where God was leading. So in a sense, we kind of discouraged her at that point from going again so soon. But we just really felt impressed that that's what she needed to do. And it was at the end of that year that she found John Wood, the answer to the dream. So, yeah.
Yes, wonderful.
Interesting.
Yeah, so we have another picture here, and that's her in the mission field. And she wasn't working with John at the time of this picture, is that correct? Or was she?
When she first found John Wood, when she found Elder Wood, she was already committed to going for a year with AFM.
Oh, okay.
And so it wasn't until the end of her year with AFM that she signed on full-time with JFA.
Okay.
But this is during the year in Cambodia when she was living in a Muslim village with a Muslim family. She was the only presence in that town. And so yeah, she was learning Khmer. She was totally immersed in the language that year.
That's wonderful. Yeah, I know she's had so many wonderful experiences. And during this time of her, growing to be a missionary and being in the field, how has your relationship or reliance on God changed? Has there been anything that you've had to rely on Him in ways that you never have before?
Well, absolutely. I mean, for years and years, God works on people incrementally. I mean, He builds our faith one step at a time. And so there were many experiences within our family before Miranda ever entered the mission field, where God was really building our faith as a family and teaching us how to pray and claim His promises and pray His word back to Him.
Yeah.
And so, but when you have a child that is far away and young and beautiful and alone in a foreign country, you definitely learn that you have to just surrender it. You have to surrender that completely, because she did fall sick in a foreign field, and she was
that's scary.
Unconscious on a restaurant floor, not knowing anybody in Cambodia and in the hospital, and it was very nerve-wracking. But we had already surrendered her and consecrated her to God, and at that point it was, we knew and said earlier we would much rather Miranda be in the middle of God's will in a very dangerous place and a dangerous situation than here in what we consider protected,
right,
and not in the center of His will. I feel like she is safer in
Sure.
His hands there than here, not in His hands. So.
No, absolutely, because we look at it from a worldly perspective and we say, oh, our country is so much safer than all these other places.
Yeah.
But if it's not where God wants you, it may not be the safest place for you at all, because He's not, I'm not that He wouldn't protect you anyway, but, going into a dangerous place with God, following you, saying, yep, this is where you need to be, He's with you, He's protecting you, He's watching out. So, yeah, that's amazing. Is there anything, as you look at your other kids or maybe other families, is there any, maybe something that you've learned that you could kind of pass on, or a little bit of advice to parents who have kids who are just like your daughter, chomping at the bit to go into the mission field? Is there anything that you could say to encourage that situation?
Well, first of all, I would encourage people to, from the very beginning, as Christians and as specifically as Seventh-day Adventists, we dedicate our children to God in the when they're little, when they're infants, just like Mary and Joseph dedicated Jesus in the temple. We do that, And actually what that is not a magical thing that happens to that child. It's actually a commitment by the parents to raise that child in the way of God, and the community of believers to actually get behind that as well. But we feel like, because of circumstances in our life, we actually kind of took it one step further with our children and actually consecrated them like Hannah did Samuel.
Okay.
And gave him literally for God's service. We're living in a time, and we are a peculiar people with a calling to give a message to the world. And I feel like our young people need to be given back to God. And so we've dedicated our children, we dedicated Miranda and all of them to God for His service for a specific time in history and in the stream of time. Right now, I really see that coming to fruition. But I just would encourage parents to do that, to give their children to God for a specific purpose, and to pray for the Holy Spirit to fill their hearts and their minds and to guide them and to hold on to them no matter what this world throws at them, because the devil is a roaring lion. But they are safer, and your life will be more blessed if you give them to God completely and prayerfully follow that.
Wonderful. That is wonderful advice. Thank you for sharing with us today. We're going to share one more photo of Miranda's. That's a little bit of a newer photo in Cambodia where she's serving the Lord, and we just are grateful for you sharing your side of the testimony of her journey. And it's wonderful to see how God can work even from a young age. Kids tend to know what God has in store for them, and you know, even if they don't see clearly where it's going to lead, but there's an inkling even at a very young age as to what God is wanting them to do. And so yeah, it's definitely encouraging to me as a parent with young kids. I want to make sure that I'm showing them how to look for God's will and not just pushing my own safe agenda on them.
Exactly.
Yeah, we definitely want to try and follow Him and give them back to His service. Amen. So, well, thank you so much for being with us. Thank you guys for joining us on this episode of Mission Snapshot. If you would like to know more about Jesus for Asia or Miranda and what she is doing, please visit our website, jesusforasia.org, and you can search for our different projects. Go to our donate page and see all the different projects there, and there will be a link posted for that page as well as one for specifically what Miranda is doing in her projects in Cambodia. And we just want to thank you so much for joining us today. If you are on YouTube, please don't forget to subscribe to Jesus for Asia YouTube channel. And if you're on Facebook, like us on Facebook so that you guys can get updates on future episodes of Mission Snapshot and other things that we have going on. And we just encourage you to join us again next week for our next episode of Mission Snapshot. And thank you for being with us.